Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we break down complex financial filings so you don't have to. And boy, do we have a treat today. Something about a company that might be making some waves, but are they making splashes or just getting their feet wet? Let's find out. We're diving into Cadrenal Therapeutics today. They've just dropped their Form 8K report, which is basically a heads up about major company events. And this one is focused on their financial results for the quarter that ended on June 30, 2025. Now, before we get into the juicy financial details, let's quickly touch on the company's stock. Cadrenal Therapeutics has its common stock traded on the Nasdaq Stock Market LLC under the ticker CVKD. It's good to know where they're listed so you can keep an eye on their performance. An interesting note here is that Cadrenal Therapeutics is flagging itself as an emerging growth company. This means they get to follow some slightly different, often less strict rules when it comes to financial reporting compared to older, more established companies. Essentially, they have a bit more breathing room while they're still growing. They've also elected not to use extended transition periods for new or updated accounting standards, which generally suggests they want to be upfront and follow the latest reporting rules, a good sign for transparency. The main event in this filing is the announcement of their financial results. Cadrenal Therapeutics put out a press release on August 11, 2025, giving us a snapshot of their financial health for the quarter ending June 30, 2025. This press release, which is included as an exhibit with this report, contains the financial information. It's important to remember that information like this, when released in a press release and referenced in an 8K, is often considered furnished rather than filed. This means it doesn't carry the same legal weight under certain sections of securities law, particularly concerning liability for misstatements. So while it gives us insight, it's not something they can automatically be sued over if it's slightly off, in the same way a fully filed document would be. Think of it as a friendly update rather than a sworn statement under penalty of perjury. So what exactly did they announce in that press release? Well, this report tells us they announced their financial condition and results of operations. They are sharing their performance for the most recent fiscal quarter. And in terms of what's actually attached to this report, we're being given the crucial press release itself as Exhibit 99.1. This is the document that holds the numbers. They also have what's called an XBRL interactive data file attached as Exhibit 4, which is basically a machine-readable version of the filing that helps financial data systems process it. The report is signed and dated August 11, 2025 with Quan X Pham, who holds the important titles of Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, signing off on behalf of Cadrenal Therapeutics, Inc. It's always good to see the top leadership taking responsibility for the disclosures. Now let's get to the heart of the matter. The financial performance for the quarter ending June 30, 2025, as detailed in that press release. While this specific 8K filing itself might not contain detailed tables, it points to a press release that does. Unfortunately, the content of that press release with the actual numbers isn't provided in this snippet. However, based on the type of report this is and the specific items mentioned, we can infer what kind of information is being conveyed. An 8K filing specifically for item 2.2 is all about results of operations and financial condition. This means the press release that Cadrenal Therapeutics issued on August 11, 2025 would contain key financial metrics that investors and analysts are always looking out for. Think about what a company usually reports: revenue, profit or loss, earnings per share, cash flow information, and maybe key balance sheet items like assets and liabilities. For a company like Cadrenal Therapeutics, which is likely in the biotech or pharmaceutical space given its name, investors would be very keen to see details about their development pipeline, any clinical trial updates, or progress towards product commercialization. If this were a more detailed filing like a 10Q, we'd see breakdowns of their income statement and balance sheet. For instance, we might see how much revenue they generated compared to, say, the previous quarter or the same quarter last year. A jump in revenue would be great, but we'd also want to know why. Is it from selling a product, licensing a technology, or something else? We'd also look closely at their expenses. Are they spending a lot on research and development? That's expected for a therapeutics company, but we'd want to see if that spending is leading to tangible progress. If they're showing losses, which is common for growing biotech firms, the key is to see if those losses are narrowing or if they have a clear path to profitability. For example, if they reported a revenue increase of, let's say, 20%, that sounds good. But if their expenses increased by 30% in the same period, that 20% revenue growth is actually making their overall financial picture worse. It's like getting a small raise but having your rent more than double. You're technically earning more, but you're worse off. We would also scrutinize their cash position. How much cash do they have on hand? Companies in this sector often burn through cash quickly. Knowing their cash runway, how long they can operate before needing more funding, is critical. If their cash balance is dwindling rapidly, it signals a potential need to raise more money, which could dilute existing shareholder stock. The financial condition part of the report would involve looking at their assets, what they own, and their liabilities, what they owe. Are they taking on a lot of debt? High debt levels can be a significant risk, especially if revenues aren't growing fast enough to cover interest payments. In the biotech world, success often hinges on clinical trial results and regulatory approvals. So while the pure numbers are important, the context of what those numbers mean for their drug development efforts is paramount. Are they moving closer to bringing a life-saving treatment to market, or are they facing setbacks? Those are the real economic drivers for a company like this. The fact that they are issuing an 8K specifically about results of operations tells us there's something significant to report. It could be very positive news like a breakthrough in a clinical trial or a new partnership, or it could be a necessary update on their financial standing. Since we don't have the specific figures for Cadrenal Therapeutics here, but we know the purpose of this filing, our analysis from here relies on understanding what to look for in that accompanying press release. Key highlights we'd want to see include that's on their drug pipeline or regulatory progress, the net income or net loss for the quarter, signing significant updates on their drug pipeline or regulatory progress. Without those specifics, it's tough to give a definitive verdict. However, the act of filing this report signals that Cadrenal Therapeutics is actively communicating its financial status to the market, which is a fundamental requirement for publicly traded companies. So let's transition to an overall assessment based on what we do know and what we would typically expect. Cadrenal Therapeutics is in a high-risk, high-reward industry. The success of a company like this lives and dies by its ability to develop and commercialize new therapies. The fact that they are reporting their financials indicates they are operational and progressing through their life cycle as a public entity. A key strength for any company in this sector is a robust and promising drug pipeline. If their press release highlighted positive developments in their research and development, like successful early stage trials or the advancement of a drug candidate to a later phase, that would be a significant positive indicator. A weakness, conversely, would be a lack of clear progress or significant financial burn without a corresponding uptick in development milestones. For instance, if they reported high spending on R&D, but no clear advancements, investors would become concerned about the efficiency of their operations and the likelihood of future success. Risks are inherent. These include the highly competitive nature of the pharmaceutical industry, the lengthy and expensive process of drug development, the possibility of clinical trial failures, and regulatory hurdles. Furthermore, companies at this stage are often heavily reliant on external funding, making them vulnerable to market conditions and investor sentiment. Opportunities would lie in successful clinical outcomes, strategic partnerships that can provide capital or expertise, and ultimately bringing a viable product to market that addresses an unmet medical need. In conclusion, while this 8K filing itself is more of a notification and a pointer to the actual financial details, it serves as a critical juncture for investors. It signifies a point where the company is offering an update on its financial health. To truly understand Cadrenal Therapeutics' standing, we need to analyze the content of the press release they've referenced. However, based on the structure of these filings and what they typically entail for an emerging growth company in the therapeutic space, the focus will always be on the progress of their pipeline and their ability to manage their finances effectively to reach key development milestones. Always remember to look beyond the headline numbers and understand the underlying business progress. Alright, that's our breakdown of what this Cadrenal Therapeutics filing is all about. What's your take on companies that are emerging growth companies and how they report their financials? Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps us out, and subscribe for more of these deep dives into the corporate world. And don't forget to join our Discord community. The link is in the description below, and it's a great place to connect with fellow finance enthusiasts and continue the conversation. Thanks for watching. See you next time.